Well, howdy, physics sleuths and inquisitive souls, and welcome again to another lecture of the Sermon of Sean. So, I think today, a lot of times when I go into this channel, like all the things I figured out about gravity and physics and everything, a lot of that I figured out on my own. Okay, not all of it. There's a lot of it God helped me on too. A lot of it. But what I'm trying to say is there's things that I figured out that I'm not 100% certain that they are the way they are. But I know that they are because it's the only way everything works out and makes sense. But I'm still not 100%. And then there's things that God has shown me that I am 100% on. So today, I'm going to talk about slavery and why it's a thing, why God had it around, why he wanted to get rid of it, how, why, when, all of it. And all of this should pretty much be considered the highest level of trust because these are not things that I figured out. These are literally from a vision that I had, pretty much my second vision, but the second one that God gave me. And I guess I'll go off into the first vision too, a little bit, because it is kind of important that you guys understand these things. This is how God kind of communicates with us for various different reasons, which I can explain, but I don't want to right now. And then also, um, it gives depth and understanding into who He is and what He's trying to accomplish here on this planet that we call dirt. All right? So, I guess without further ado, we should begin. I was once a normal, everyday earth monkey dog thing, like the rest of y'all. Sad but true. And but something was different about me. I wasn't quite on the same level as everybody with all the tribalness. It was totally different. So I'm working this great job, right, for the federal government, and I know that if I leave my hometown, I will achieve my full potential. And if I don't, I never will. This much I know. God put that in my heart, I guess you could say. So naturally, I wanted to achieve my full potential. So I left. And I got another job working in Germany. So I left America and moved to Germany. And I'm working there, and everything started off well enough. And then about 6 months into it, the whole world just like turned on me and ruthlessly attacked me. Um, my friends stopped being my friends and started getting very ultra political, and either I was too political for them or I wasn't political enough or this or that. Um, there was a girl that I liked. She was playing massive head games with me the whole time. And the job that I worked, the guy that was over me, Major Daniel Husek, I would never forget that name. He was viciously attacking me, trying to destroy my career, saying that he doesn't think that I'm good enough for any federal job. So he's going to take it upon himself to try and ruin my career. So he basically had my secret clearance revoked. At the time of secret, I had a top secret clearance with SCI before, but this time, which is regular secret, I believe. And he claimed that I was a Russian spy. And Trump had just changed the law a couple months before this. He talked to the lawyers to get this all pre-approved. Where before, if he would have done this, okay, they would have had to send me home and pay me until the DOD CAF figures this out, the authority on clearances. And so it's like, well, fuck you. If you want to send me home for the next year or two, while I get paid and do nothing but get drunk, have at it. Just the DOD clack and finally realize I'm not a Russian spy. But Trump changed this law because he wanted to fire somebody that pissed him off, and he couldn't do it. So he changed the law so he just fired them. So he screwed over a bunch of people like me. So now people like Daniel Major Cusack had this green light to attack anyone they didn't like. And all they had to do was just utter the words, I think he could be a Russian spy. Investigate. And now they have to investigate. And because there's so many people trying to get rid of people now doing this, the queue went from a few months long to literally, I still haven't heard back. It's been like 5 years. I still have not heard back about my list ever. I know it's supposed to go through, never heard. So they just didn't do anything. So basically, you're stuck in permanent limbo without pay until you get a new job or whatever. That was what everybody was doing. So good old me, as soon as I figured the game, I let my psycho flag fly. And I started, doing surveillance on him. Found out where he lived. He had this nice little, place off by a lake. And started, doing reconnaissance to basically murder him and his pregnant wife. I was going to cut the belly out of her baby and strangle her to death with the umbilical cord right in front of him. I'm not a nice guy. I'm really sorry if I did anything to make any of you think that I'm a nice guy. I am not a nice guy. I am a cold, vile-hearted, ruthless son of a bitch if you cross me. And if you don't, I'm the nicest guy you ever met. And that's why people have problems with me, because they don't understand how I can just flick a switch and go from the nicest guy they've ever met, thinking I'm totally harmless, to now I'm literally skull fucking you in front of the cops, and I don't give a fuck. People just don't understand that about me. Yeah, don't fuck with me, I won't fuck with you. That's how it goes. You fuck with me, I fuck with you. So I'm making these plans to murder him, and I don't give a fuck what it's cost me. I don't care if I get shot down and gun. I don't care if I live to see tomorrow. Nobody disrespects me and lives to see tomorrow. That's the deal. So I'm making these plans, and I'm slipping into madness and into evilness. My mind is doing nothing but coming up with these evil schemes all day long on how to kill all these people around me and how to get my kill spree going and everything. I'm going dark side. I'm going full dark side, baby. And I came across something that basically said that, well, what if God is harvesting our souls instead of collecting them and repurposing them? He's harvesting them like a commodity, like a wine. And Jesus refers to the soul as a wine, and that God loves the wine. And he likes mature wine over immature wine. Jesus says this. And so I'm like, well, if God's gone evil too, then fuck it. I'm going full dark side. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill everybody, bro. I'm done with all this evil fucks attacking me. I'm going to kill everything. And I started making my plans. Started making plans to raid nuclear silos, steal stuff, make dirty bombs, just destroy the whole world, man. I'm the fucking bad motherfucker. And then God sends me my first vision. I laid down on my bed, and I just laid there for a while, trying to clear my mind, calm my mind. And then I was completely overcome by this vision, where I'm on this huge wheel, symbolizing the wheel of rebirth in Buddhism. And we're all bound to the wheel. And the wheel is slowly just turning and turning and turning, and you're bound to it. And as it turns, it eventually hits you where you're at, and it crushes you, destroys your soul. And then that gets recycled for the next generation that goes back on the wheel. It just this never-ending cycle of rebirth and death and recycle, rebirth and death. This is the concept of the Buddhist wheel. And you're stuck like samsara. You're stuck. And so God gave me this vision where I'm on the wheel, and I hear everybody screaming above me, below me, and they're all getting crushed, and I hear the crushing sounds, and they're dying. And God just tells me, free yourself of the wheel and become the supreme soul. That's why I tattooed. So I'd never forget that lesson. And I did. I did what I had to do in that dream sequence, in that vision, and I freed myself with the wheel to great pain and suffering to my own person. I had to rip my own body asunder to free myself with the wheel. And it cost me. I wasn't quick enough, and it still got a little bit of my foot. For the most part, I had done what God asked me to. I had freed myself with the wheel and set myself on this journey to becoming the supreme soul. And this vision went down literally right before COVID happened. And I immediately, as soon as COVID happened, I immediately just instinctively knew this is apocalyptic shit. And I looked it up and I made a video about it back years ago. I have it on this channel if you still want to go back and look to it, where I go off all the signs of the 7 signs at the end of the world according to the Bible have already been completed. And I'm like, I don't know what this means because we're still here. I don't get it yet. So at the church, I learned about the Great Tribulation and how this all works. And then I came up with the fact of, okay, I think I know exactly what's going on now. And we are 100% in the Great Tribulation, the final year now. It is waning, and very soon, Putin is going to nuke all NATO countries about a year from now. And that is going to send the whole world into a long 5-month-long nuclear winter where 2/3 of the whole planet die, mainly from the star Wormwood, which falls on the 3rd day and contaminates all the fresh water. So the Bible says wormwood is clearly a nod to radiation. So the world's going to die from radiation sickness, essentially, mainly from drinking radiated water. And, I'm coming to terms with this. I'm trying to figure out what to do. And so at this point, I've already come back to America. And I was in San Francisco, and then I moved on from San Francisco quickly to Washington State because I had a lot of problems in San Francisco, and that was when the pandemic officially hit. And I didn't want to play a pandemic, so they're like, fuck you, get fired then. All right. So I did. I'm not going to play that bullshit. So, so I'm in Washington, and I'm thinking I want to go to Asia. Is where I want to try and hide this out. So I take a trip to Asia, right? And I'm in Bangkok, and it's hot, and there's a snafu. I had to switch hotels, and so I had to arrange all this on the spot. And my hotel was just like a mile down the road that I had to go to. So I grabbed my stuff and I tried going around to all the taxis, like, hey, can you take me here? Show them everything, and they all look like I'm crazy. Never have I ever had a taxi tell me no in Bangkok, but on that day, I swear to God, I asked at least 10 of them. Every single one looked like I was speaking a whole different language. Like they had no clue what I'm speaking. I'm like, it's a mile that way. I pay you to take me there. And they're like, I've never heard of this hotel before. And I'm like, but it's right here. Here's the Google Maps right to it. You can just follow it. It's not that big of a deal. It's only a mile away. Nope. Wouldn't touch me. So I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna have to walk this. Only a mile, right? But I got brain damage from getting blown up in Iraq. So I have an epileptic tick that can kill me. And started kicking up pretty bad. So I'm on the middle of the street, dropped to my knees, dry heaving, vomiting all over myself, convulsing. I know I'm probably gonna die here. Probably gonna die. And then this old taxi driver on tuk tuk just runs across the street to me, and he says like, "Please let me help you." And I'm like, I'm trying to get to this hotel. I'll fucking vomit on myself and shit. And he's like, I know exactly where it is. Like, I just mentioned the names. Like, I know, right? It's just right over there. I'll take you. And I'm like, okay, crazy. So he takes me. And then he asks me about, my condition. I tell him. And he's like, well, if you smoke some cannabis, would that help? And I'm like, yeah, actually, it would. But I don't have any. I said, well, I have some here. He just gave it to me. And I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. Didn't charge me anything. And I'm like, I don't have any to smoke it with. He's like, I'll give you And he just stopped the tuk-tuk and ran into a thing, like right there. And it came right back with papers and gave it to me. And I'm like, wow, this never happened before. Very odd, very interesting. So I take it, go to my new hotel room, smoke my joint, and lay down. And then God gives me my second vision, right? This one was probably the longest and most intense vision that God had ever given me. Okay. And I guess you could argue, you could be like, well, you're high. So you're like, cool story, bro. How do you think everybody communed with God throughout all of human history? Like the Greeks, Alexander the Great, for he to do anything, he would get totally blitzed on like what's it, opium and alcohol, like wine, just like chug it, and then he would just wait and commune with God and see what God wants him to do. Should I take the city? How should I take it? Should I not? Should I be nice to them? Should I be mean to them? What do you want me to do? And God will tell him, and Alexander will do it, and worked out pretty well for him. But anyways, I digress. So I had this vision, and the whole thing is on slavery. It's basically a world tour history of slavery in on this planet. Okay, and basically, it didn't start with the Jews, but he started with the Jews for some reason. God had told me that he had created the Jews, kind of used genetic lineage material from like the Greeks, whatnot. But he created them, right? And they're very peaceful and very placid, and trying to get this new race of people up on the level. And they had a lot of neighbors that were trying to enslave them and this and that. And so eventually God allows the Jews to be enslaved by the Egyptians. And they're like, well, why would God do that? Why would he allow his people to be enslaved? Well, for two reasons. First of all, God would see to it that whoever enslaved a population he wanted them to take care of, that he would treat them well enough. He wouldn't maltreat them too much. And that it would take care of them. So you had this very small population of Jews that are being safeguarded and taken care of by the largest empire at the time, the Egyptian Empire, and teaching them how to build temples, mosques, roads, everything. They made them build all the stuff for them so they didn't have to do this. And in the process, they had unwittingly taught the Jews how to do all these things for themselves. So God had used slavery numerous times to protect a smaller population, a smaller race that he wanted to protect, that needed hundreds of years, whatever, but they didn't have the time. And so he would allow them to be taken over as slaves by another larger empire. And then they would kind of get, finished cooking in the oven of slavery, you could argue. And then eventually, when the time was right, God would orchestrate something to free them. Okay, so he would use slavery as a tool to kind of safeguard and take care of smaller races and populations. Okay, the alternative would be just to genocide them off, and obviously God does not want this at all. I don't think he wants a slavery, but got to have a compromise when it comes to humans because we're kind of animalistic, stubborn like that. So, so God would do this, okay? But when he sent Moses to free the slaves, he knew that Pharaoh wouldn't free them. And in fact, Africa had a huge problem with slavery its entire existence. The entire continent of Africa has been riddled by slavery from the beginning, the dawn of existence. It's like, it's just, I can't explain it, but cultural, whatever, however you want to say it is, um, slavery was very prevalent and seen as a norm in all of Africa, despite numerous attempts to abolish it. Like when God tried to abolish the slavery in Egypt, they refused. So he cursed Egypt, and he actually cursed all of Africa. Like he told me this, he cursed all of Africa because they wouldn't stop with the fucking slaves. They just wouldn't. It's like at the end of the day, they just considered slaves as the biggest point of being alive is to get slaves to do your bidding for you. And the more slaves you had, the more powerful, the more amazing you were. And so it was like this whole thing, this race to see who could have more slaves, and it was just horrendous, right? So, um, if we look, Africa, human period, it says, like, listen, all this desert of Africa, half of Africa, the Sahara Desert, was actually not a desert during the African human period. It was covered by grass, trees, and lakes. It was normal land. But God cursed it and took away the rainwaters and allowed it to dry up and to wither away to nothingness because he didn't want to feed and to give any resources necessary or any more than he had to any empire that was not going to let go of slavery and that was just going to keep trying to enslave the whole fucking world. God just wasn't going to have that. So he destroyed the whole continent of Africa to this day to stop that. That's how serious God is when he says no. You're going to fucking stop. One way or another, my man. One way or another. So, and if you look at the times, yeah, they're like, 6,000 years ago is, when it really started going all deserty. Which would have been, before the Jews were being freed, but that's the whole point. This whole thing's been going on for a very long time. Humanity, we have archaeological data showing of humans going back like at least 100,000 years. Okay, we know God has been working through evolution on humanity for a very long time. All right? He didn't just snap his fingers and create humans. And if he did, let's pretend and say he did use pixie dust and snapped his fingers and now humanity's created. Well, guess what? Still doesn't change the fact that he used 98.9% of the same DNA sequence as a chimpanzee. Whether he snapped in existence or used evolution to get it, to make it from something, it's the same damn effect. We share 98.9% of the same DNA sequence as a chimpanzee. And there's a reason for that. And there's a reason why we have all the same mental hangups about tribal culture and all this stuff that chimps have too. It's all in the DNA. It's all instinctual. All right? So Africa used to be where it was at for humanity. But they wouldn't stop the slaves, and God knew he couldn't stop them. So he had to curse them and abolish Africa. All right? So the Jews are freed, blah, blah, blah. But Africa still refuses to get rid of the slaves. And one of the reiterations of the complete annihilation of the Egyptian Empire in Africa was, the Barbary pirates. The Barbary pirates popped up for over 300 years. They basically just were pirates. They had ships, and they would seize mainly British ships, mainly not warships because they didn't want to fight. They just wanted to take merchant ships. And then they would take the women and use them as sex slaves and just breed them until they die. They just get gangbanged all day long, pumping out babies. And then the men, they would make gallows slaves. And the gallows slaves is like the worst job you could get, especially for a white boy, because we don't do good with the sun. Well, gallows slaves, they just chain you to an oar in the hot sun, and you just row the boat until you die. And they feed you, give you water, maybe rinse you off with salt water once in a while. But the sun is cooking you. So after the first couple of days, you're just covered in blisters, and you never get unchained. So you're just sitting in your own filth, your own feces and stuff. And you get infected and you just die after. Like the average lifespan of a white gallows slave was like a month or two more tops, and they would just die. And then they would just throw their body overboard, let the sharks eat them, and you're our new gallows slave, until you die. Pretty horrible. And the Barbary pirates thought it was the most hilarious thing in the world to watch these white men that supposedly had an empire just die from a little sunlight. Oh, you can't take a little sunlight. You're a little light skin, too weak. And they thought it was the funniest thing. And and so God is a comedian, in case you haven't figured it out yet. And the way that you fuck people over, 9 times out of 10, is the way that he's going to come back and teach you a lesson. Why? Why did the Barbary pirates take so much pleasure in killing British, slaves, white slaves, with the sunlight? Because they had darkened skin, so they could stand out in the sun and not get sunburned and not die from it. But white people couldn't. Well, the white man, the British, began to realize this. And so they said, hey, so wait a second. These black people can stay out in the sun all day long and work and not die from the sun? Well, they'd make really good slaves, now wouldn't they? And they want to seem to take our people as slaves a whole hell of a lot. So I think we're going to teach them a little lesson. And so then the empire started slave trade. They started going to African towns and telling their chiefs, hey, you wage war on this chief, all the people, all the men that you got and the women that you don't want, sell them to us as slaves, and then you take their territory and you make a whole shit ton of money from us. Everybody's happy. And so that's what it was. The British never went into towns and rounded people up forcibly against their will and put them on the boats. No. They had their tribal leaders do that for them and sell them to them legally. It was all legal. I'm not saying it was better, but it was all legal. And so, the slave trade began. And this kicked off a whole lot of people wanting black slaves because they found out that they can do all the work, farm jobs, whatever, out in the sun all day long and not die. And so there were a lot of African slaves and sent all around the world from the British Empire. Well, the British could never deal with the Barbary pirates, though, because the Barbary pirates would just run away from them if they brought warships. And if they had merchant ships, they couldn't stop them. So the British just got wrecked for like 300 years by the Barbary pirates in all the Mediterranean Sea. The Barbary pirates even went as far, all the way around Europe, all the way to Norway, just to get some pretty blonde girl slaves to gangbang. Yeah, no shitting. They went all the way around there just to get some blonde sex slaves, many times throughout human history. They're very bad people. And they enslaved a lot of people. Millions of people died to the Barbary pirates. And it wasn't just the Barbary pirates. I mean, a lot of them were Muslim, people. Some of them were North Africans, like from Morocco. They were all over, man. They all had one thing in common. I want to get filthy rich, capturing innocent people and making them slaves. And so they did this. Well, America was just coming into its own about this time. This was like 1776 is when America was officially formed. Well, just like 20 years later, 1801, we have the first Barbary War, known as the Triple War. And this is where they say that Thomas Jefferson didn't want to pay, but that he was paying. He was paying like $100,000 to the Sultan of Morocco at the time. And the Barbary pirates just took his money and they didn't care. They kept taking American prisoners. And this is why Thomas Jefferson paid them this money not to take American prisoners. So I don't give a fuck if you do the British, but don't fuck with my people. We're going to have problems. So he paid them, and the Sultan said, well, pay me money and I won't mess with their people. So he paid them and they kept messing with people anyways. So now Thomas Jefferson said, all right, game on. So they make a navy. 20 years, baby. Make a navy. God's help. Sail all the way around the fucking planet to the Mediterranean Sea and wage war on the Barbary pirates and whoop their ass to no end. They even went and stopped by Morocco to burn down the Sultan's palace. And then when they were there going to kill him and murder his whole family, all of a sudden the Sultan's like, oh, I can see you guys are very pissed. And I think that we've got off on the wrong foot. They wanted those things, did a complete reversal. And then he's like, okay, I might have screwed you guys over once or twice, but I swear this time I'm not going to do it anymore. And so, they kept him in the loop and they kept things going and he learned his lesson after they showed up where he fucking lived. But yeah, this went on, and America essentially is the force that destroyed the Barbary Pirates. Yeah, after just being a nation for like 20 years, we created the finest navy, sailed that bitch all the way around the planet, and waged war with the faction that nobody could touch, and whooped their ass. And you know why? Because God was on our side. And I'm about to prove that to you in a second. We're not done. This keeps going, baby. This keeps going. All right? There's a long vision. So, we did that. And God knew he had a winner. So, he blessed us. He blessed America. Okay? And so, at this point, like, God really, really wanted to get rid of slavery. And there's a funny history lesson for you. The word slave. You want to know where it comes from? It comes because world history, at the time, like around 1300, maybe even before that, they say 1580, you got the Byzantine Empire was running into the Slavics, taking them as slaves. You had the Mongolians running into Slavics, taking them as slaves. You had the Romans. You had everybody. Everybody was looking at the Slavic nations like Belarus, Ukraine, Russia, all these white people nations, the whitest of the white. And for some reason, all they thought of them was slaves. And so they went and raided and got all these slaves. So for like, my God, hundreds of years, man, hundreds of years, like 1,000 years, for like 1,000 years, the most common ethnicity for slaves were Slavics. And so they just used it as a derogatory term and shortened it because they couldn't even say it's Slavic. Slave. They're a slave. They're our property. And that is where the word slave comes from. Literally, the definition for white person, but because all of the slaves were white people back then, they were just called slaves. True. But go on. Tell me again how I don't know shit about slavery because I'm white and that black people are the only ones allowed to talk about it. Tell me again. I love your fucking jokes. They're so funny. Ha, ha, ha. I digress. Oh, it gets so much worse, baby. We're going deep on this one. So, that's where the word slave comes from, okay? Don't let anyone ever tell you that white people didn't get through the ringer just as hard as anybody else when it comes to slavery, all right? We got it just as bad, if not worse, than anybody. 1,000 years of it. And the very word that you use for slave was our word to describe us, because that's how many of us were slaves, okay? So, God wants to get rid of slavery. Okay, it's been a stain on humanity long enough. He wants to get rid of it. It's 1800. It's got to go. So he orchestrates America to have our civil war over slavery. Slavery. And it was like 1 million people died. 1 million people were sacrificed to the altar of slavery to end it once and for all. 1 million white men died fighting for slavery, whether to keep it or to end it. And we won, right? After 4 years and 1 million deaths, the North had defeated the South, and it was 100%, we ain't going to allow slavery in our country no more. Get over it. Or we can kill you. How do you want this to go? So, that is how slavery in America. Well, then the whole rest of the world had saw this growing movement of slave rights, and they saw what just went down through America, how bitter the Civil War was, where literally 1 million people died fighting in this war to end slavery, and the slavers didn't even win. They lost, sorry. So this sent ripples throughout the entire world. And within a matter of years, like, I don't know, 2 or 5 years, literally almost every single country on the known planet had abolished slavery. Literally, almost every. And there was a few holdouts here and there, whatever, but it's always a spot of crap laying around somewhere. So, and this was all from America. We pushed for this too. After the war, we pushed for the whole world to get rid of slavery. It wasn't just us, baby. And the whole world did. Because the American Civil War, you can look it up. A couple years before the American Civil War, slaves all over the whole known world, everywhere. A couple years after the Civil War, literally, gone, baby. Gone, baby, gone. Almost all gone. But 1 million Americans died for this. So God blessed America. He told me this in the dream, in my vision. He said, because of this, because of the sacrifice that America made to get rid of slavery on the planet, God had blessed America to forever be the center of the world. You want to know why the American dollar is a global reserve currency? Why 9 out of 10 of every single invention that's ever worth a damn and all of human history was made in America. Why America is the richest country on the planet. Why America has their fingers in everyone's pots and there ain't a damn thing they can do about it, is because they blessed America for their actions in getting rid of slavery. Just like God had blessed the Jews to be cream that always rise to the top, no matter what you do. That's why people are all like, well, but why is it that all of these CEOs of banks and media conglomerates and blah, 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 why is it always Jews at the top? Because God blessed the Jews to rise like cream to the top, baby. Get over it. That's the reason why. And that's the reason why America is the center of the world, because he blessed them too for what they did. Now, so this is pretty much the history of slavery. All right. Why God allowed it to exist in the first place, and how God took steps to end it. He destroyed its central hub in Africa by destroying all of Africa by not letting the rain fall for thousands of years. And he, got America to play cleanup and basically bully the whole world into getting rid of it. All right. Now, another thing. Emergent Africa, yes. I don't even know why I'm looking on this one. Yeah, I guess I'm just looking here, see how many slaves there were. All right, there were a lot of slaves in America, like, I don't know, like 10 million or something. Who knows? They never kept track. The numbers are definitely skewed, I guarantee it. But what there also was these things called indentured servitudes, servants. These are basically what it is at this time, England, Ireland, all this, had too many people. And the cost of life was cheap. And they were trying to colonize America and Australia. So what they did is they would set people up for crimes, tell the cops, hey, anybody that even looks like they're going to commit a crime, just bring them in, bucket, don't care. So you would have people who would be in there for the crime of not stealing a loaf of bread, but because it looked like they were on the street where there was a loaf of bread, I could have fucking stole that bitch. And so then the judge would tell them, he'd be like, okay, look, either I'm going to kill you, execution, or you agree to be an indentured slave in America for 20 years. And they supposedly had contracts, but a lot of these contracts were broken. A lot of the people who were supposed to be freed after so many years were not. Some of them were, some of them were not. Some people honored it, some people did not. A slave is a slave until you're not a slave anymore. You're still a slave. That's the deal. And so they would send over continuous boatloads trying to populate these new colonies in America and Australia of indentured servants who did nothing wrong. Some of them maybe they stole, maybe they did something, but a lot of them were just basically bullied into it because they needed bodies to populate the new world. And this is how they got it. And there was a lot of indentured servitudes. I've seen numbers that there were not as many as there were slaves, but it wasn't far from. Like there are things, yeah, see, like between 1/2 and 2/3 of American immigrants to the American colonies between the 1630s and the Revolution came under indentures. So it's basically telling you here that, listen, man, at least 1/3, maybe even half of everybody in the New World was an indentured slave. That's a lot. That's a lot. I don't know if I believe those numbers personally, but I know it was a lot. Okay, it was definitely a lot. Um, so there's another thing they don't want to tell you about. They want to go on and on how every white man in America had multitudes of black slaves farming land, making them rich, and blah blah blah. But the reality is that literally almost as many white people that weren't slaves were slaves. That's how they populated it, man. So it's just basically when you go into slavery, man, a lot of people want to try and demonize white people, all right, and say that they're the cause of slavery. No, motherfucker. Slavery has been around in Africa for a very, very long time, okay? Since the dawn of human civilization, it's been around. And God has kept it around for various reasons, as I explained, but he wanted it to go, so it had to go. But all this DEI stuff that they're pushing, the WF is pushing, the Antichrist, you might as well call them, because everything they push goes against what Jesus is about. But they want to try and portray this image that all black people were slaves not that long ago, and that all white people were slave owners not that long ago. It was horrible, and everything that you've ever gotten in your life as a white man is only because of the prelude of the slavery that you were a part of, and everything bad that ever happened to a black person is because of the prelude of slavery. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit meant to confuse you and make you either inept so you don't have an opinion on it, or that your opinion is what their opinion is, because they have an agenda they're trying to serve, and that is to try and destroy Christianity. It is what it is. This is a holy war we're in, my son. With the beast, there's God himself. And you are a fool if you think the beast has a chance. I assure you, baby, he don't. So, that is pretty much the summation of everything that this vision, the second vision that I had in Bangkok, that it pit me on. And I think this vision, God just sent it to me because he wanted me to know where he stood on this and why this was ever a thing in human existence to begin with. It wasn't because that's what he wanted, but it was a part of his plan, because that was the only way he could get what he wanted, where humanity to be in so many thousands of years, is through these compromises, these negotiations, because we're kind of stubborn. Anyways, I think that's about all that we're going to go through today. I hope you learned something about God from my first two visions that I've shared with you. There's a lot to be taught in those lessons, but What you really need to know, it's like I said, we're in the final year of the Great Tribulation. I swear it. And about a year from now, Putin is going to nuke all NATO countries, and it's going to kill 2/3 of the entire planet. And this is the way it has to be, because humans have become evil. And I'm sorry, but think of it like this. We're dogs, right? Just like if you spell God backwards, you get dog. Yeah. We are God to dogs. We created them. We bred them into existence. The only reason they exist today at all is because we bred them to exist thousands of years ago to be our servants. But now you got these rabbit packs of dogs that we made. They're running loose in the cities at night, hunting your children and eating them alive, killing them. And they're evil. They're not serving you. They're working against you. But they're your creation. You bear a responsibility for that. Even if not you specifically, us as in humans do. So what do? You have these packs of rabid dogs that only exist because we made them exist and willed them into existence. And now they're hunting our children in the streets at night and killing them. What do you think we're going to do? We're going to fucking hunt those dogs and kill them. We're going to get rid of evil. And now you understand why God has to do what he has to do. The Great Tribulation, my son. He bred us for a reason. And we are not doing that reason. We are doing other, more self-serving things that are evil. They do not make for good people to be born in our civilization. And if evil breeds and begats more evil. And before you know it, everything about humanity is evil. It's true when in the Bible they say that ultimately all good things in humanity are derived from God, one way or another. It really is true. And the further that we get away from him and religion, any religion really, any major religion, the more sinister and evil human civilization gets altogether. And I'm sorry, if you thought that we are fine, we're not fine. We're not fine. None of us are fine. None of us. I was a psychopathic murderer plotting out numerous people's death before the Great Tribulation. And I'm considered one of the best. We're not fine. We're not fine. But anyways, with that, I think I'll bid you adieu. I hope you learned something. And I plan on hopefully resuming and finishing my experiments into plasma generation of anti-gravity. I've been lazy lately, but I'm hoping my next video will be summation that up. I'm going to try and do it. I'm going to try to do it this time for real. No more laziness. But I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Adios, muchachos.
Like, subscribe, submit.